Park. I love him. He defended his contestant, saying, "Feather in your hat" is actually how a lot of people say it.
Yeah. Right now on Denver 7 News at 8 o'clock on Local 3, the search for Douglas County's next superintendent narrows. The two candidates vying to lead one of Colorado's largest school districts.
Plus, today marks round 2 of talks between Ukraine and Russia. What Russia is saying, it wants to end the invasion now in its 8th day.
And enjoy the warm weather before our next storm moves in. A new CU study looks at the benefits of getting outdoors, which have been so important during the pandemic. As we take a live look from our Mile High camera, another beautiful start to our day here before some changes, Lisa.
A gorgeous shot there as you're looking off to the east at that sunrise, and here from Winter Park looking off to the west, we've got some really nice conditions and temperatures that are going to be, well, at this point in the 40s down here across the plains. Mild start, upper 60s by noon, and then we're going to hit a high of about 73. So once again, we've got a happy emoji across the board today. In the mountains, you're going to find 40s and 50s. Steamboat today, 46. Gunnison, 43. Low to mid 60s near Montrose and Grand Junction, and near 80 down over the southeastern corner of the state. So it's beautiful. Now, when you look at our 10-day forecast for temperatures, things are going to be a little colder than average here over the western U.S. So today, nice. Tomorrow, still pretty warm, but it does get pretty chilly this weekend. We'll take a closer look at the storm, when it's going to hit, and how much snow we're expecting on our Super 7 Day coming up.
And so you can expect it to be a little bit slower than normal on I-70 heading to the ski resorts here this weekend. So plan on extra time there. We do have, unfortunately, extra time needed on C-470 from Quebec over here to I-25. Take a look from the camera there. And somebody wiped out the sign as well that would let you know that the meter ramps are ahead, as well as rolling over. So we do have one lane open going to northbound 25. The one lane open to southbound's open, but it's obviously backing up traffic. And you can see how heavy it is, not only there, but also on the west side. A lot of slow and go going up to Morrison right now. Half an hour's ride there on I-25 downtown to the Denver Tech Center. Let me take you to the camera up by the mall up on westbound Highway 36. From that camera over by Foothills, or Flatirons rather, they just are now clearing the crash. It was sitting right here. So these are the first cars going through the express lane on westbound Highway 36 towards Superior. And that's good news, as traffic, it was backed up significantly trying to get up that way. The rest of the drive is still pretty heavy in some of those usual spots.
All right. Thank you, Jason. This morning, Douglas County is closer to naming its new superintendent. The school board narrowed the search down to 2 finalists. In what started as a contentious process, the announcement comes less than a month after the board voted to fire former Superintendent Corey Wise.
This morning, we're going 360 on politics and education, from the superintendent controversy in Dougco. Also, our team in Washington is breaking down how a push to make school boards more partisan could impact your child's schools. And we'll explain a bill in our state legislature that would require schools to be more transparent about curriculum.
Denver 7's Colette Bordelon kicks off our coverage this morning because, Colette, the school board in Douglas County so far has kept its promise to fast track this process.
Yeah, and Brian, you might remember that search for the new superintendent technically started back in mid-February. So right now, it's only taken the school board a little more than 2 weeks to narrow down their list of candidates to these 2 finalists who they want to see in that superintendent position. Now, one of those finalists is Erin Kane. She's one of 2 candidates that will be interviewed at noon during a public meeting today. Her name's been floated around as the favorite. She's the executive director of schools for American Academy, a charter system. Kane served as interim superintendent for Douglas County Schools from 2016 to 2018. The other candidate is Danny Windsor, the executive director for the Parker region of Douglas County Schools, which he's been since the summer of 2020. Before that, he was with the district for over a dozen years. There was a motion to move Windsor forward as the only finalist, but that was defeated. Next Tuesday's board meeting will be the chance for public comment on the finalists, with an interview panel quizzing them on March 10th. The last public comment session before hiring the next superintendent is set for March 22nd. As for Corey Wise, who was fired from the superintendent position that he only filled for a little less than a year, he's taken a new job with Jeffco Public Schools. His attorneys did file an open records request asking for any communication surrounding his firing back in mid-February. Live this morning, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
Thank you, Colette. Debate over masks and vaccines and remote learning have pushed local school boards to get a lot more political than they used to be. Here in Colorado, all school board candidates must run under a nonpartisan title, but you can typically tell which way they lean on the political spectrum. We saw it during last year's Dougco school board election, where more conservative candidates formed a group calling themselves Kids First, and others campaigned under the slogan Community Matters. Now more districts across the country are allowing school board candidates to tie themselves to a political party. Our national team visited Fayette County, Tennessee, where for the first time this year, they chose to have a partisan school board race with candidates running as either a Democrat or Republican. Those in support of the move say it better informs the voters, but others say it could force school board primary elections, making elections and campaigning more divisive. As school board elections become more competitive, Colorado lawmakers are considering limiting how much people can donate to campaigns. A bill making progress in the legislature right now would cap individual contributions at $2,500 per candidate and donations from committees at $25,000. In the last election, Douglas County candidates raised more than $90,000 each. Some individual donors gave upwards of $20,000 to their candidates.
Parents having a say in their kids' education is a big theme right now, even making it into the Republican response to the State of the Union.
They're tired of politicians who tell parents they should sit down, be silent, and let government control their kids' education and future.
Republican lawmakers in at least a dozen states are turning parents' concerns into bills. One bill up for a hearing in Colorado's House Education Committee today would require school districts to be more upfront about what kids are learning. House Bill 1066, sponsored by Republican Tim Geithner, would require school districts to post on their websites all textbooks and materials being used for all subjects, any surveys kids are given in school, and information about professional development or training teachers are undergoing.
So right now what you're seeing is there's a desire for parents to fully understand what curriculum is being taught at their schools. When everyone went to that e-learning environment, parents became a lot more aware of what their child was learning from.
But it wasn't just remote learning that seems to have caused new tensions between parents and their schools. In districts across the country, some parents have raised their voices about the teaching of race relations and history. Falcon School District 49 in Geithner's House District specifically banned the teaching of critical race theory earlier this year. But Geithner says schools in Colorado already have to follow rules about teaching controversial topics, and that this bill is just about giving parents easier access to information that can help them make the best choice for their child.
Being able to see what type of curriculum is being offered, maybe there's a better fit as I do that long-term planning.
While easing the burden for parents, he says this won't add work for teachers.
This shouldn't burden teachers. This is a requirement for the school district. Like, I wrote it very, very carefully that way.
Now, the bill faces an uphill battle in the Democratic-controlled legislature, but if it passes, Denver Public Schools says the majority of their district-managed schools already use district-supported curriculum, and they could easily post that online. However, for schools that do not use the district curriculum, they would have to collect and share all of those resources at the school level.
New this morning, initial jobless claims in the U.S. have hit a 2-month low. Some good news there. The Labor Department says 215,000 claims were filed last week, and we haven't seen that level since the end of December. So we head to the White House and the crisis in Ukraine this morning. President Biden has called a cabinet meeting for noon our time over the U.S. response to Russia's invasion. The Treasury is preparing additional sanctions against Russian oligarchs in the coming days. Also, early this morning, the White House has asked Congress to authorize an additional $10 billion for aid to Ukraine.
The ongoing crisis is having an impact on financial markets once again this morning. U.S. markets are opening in the green with the Dow up 0.33% there. Oil prices are still high, stabilizing but not looking to cool down anytime soon. The U.S. is set to announce a new wave of restrictions against Russia today.
Also today, Russia and Ukraine delegates are meeting for the second time in Belarus. Russia's foreign minister says they're ready for discussion to end the fighting, but they won't stop targeting Ukraine's military infrastructure. Last night, Russian troops took control of the first large Ukrainian city. 5 other cities appear to be surrounded, though.
Ukraine says more than 1 million people have now fled the violence, but many others are deciding to stay and fight. Here's Andrea Fujii.
This morning, through the dark and bitter cold, crowds by the thousands are trying to leave Ukraine, while the realization of what they've left behind sets in.
My husband, my home, my dog, my cats, my life.
The UN now saying more than 1 million people have escaped to neighboring countries, but many others are choosing to stay and fight. And not just men. At this art gallery in Lviv, young women are ripping fabric. and braiding it into camouflage nets.
We are creating nets to hide our military forces from snipers and different Russian forces.
These young professionals staying in harm's way to save their country.
I don't want to live in the country under Russia.
These men becoming welders to make steel traps for Russian tanks. This man told his 3-year-old daughter that she and her mom were going on vacation. They're now safe in Poland. He recalled to ABC's Matt Gutman their last conversation.
She talking to me, "Daddy, come to me, please." And
you cried.
Everything will be okay.
And below ground, brave medical staff and parents protecting the most vulnerable, nearly 200 children inside this hospital in Kyiv. This father staying with his sick daughter, determined to live, admitting it's hard, but saying, "We will not give up, we will fight to the last." The same sentiments for this family, sheltering in a bunker. Ukrainian-born Slava Chuprina, now living in the U.S., says his entire family is split up in Kyiv, including his 83-year-old grandmother who survived World War II.
If she has to, she said that she will grab a pitchfork and go stand up for Ukraine.
The European Union is working to guarantee work visas for Ukrainians who fled to other countries. Some activists in the U.S. are also pushing for President Biden to do the same. Andrea Fujii, ABC News.
Still to come, a local mom sounds the alarm about how easy it is for kids to find drugs on social media, how Snapchat is responding. And a former police officer pleads guilty to his role in the violent arrest of a woman with dementia, how much time he could serve because of it. And Juneteenth is one step closer to becoming an official holiday in Colorado.